The celebrated Australian scientist Howard Florey saved millions of lives by developing a way of mass-producing penicillin. Today, his legacy to medical science is remembered, and rightly so, in this avenue of honour in Adelaide, South Australia. What should be remembered too, though, is that Howard Florey's achievements in penicillin came about through a team inspired by the vision of their leader. My name is Mark Douglas from the Ethos Forum. At Ethos, we help leading researchers become research leaders, so they too will have the power to realise their ambition. In most research, it's the team that provides the capacity and capability to achieve major discovery. At the Ethos Forum, we define the elements critical to research leadership and how they can be acquired. Peer learning and review are at the heart of higher education and research. So let's hear from the highest echelon of research leadership. What are the challenges and opportunities encountered in the leadership journey, and what's been learnt along the way? To find out, we're talking to Professor Sakkie Pretorius. Sakkie, what do you believe we learn from the Howard Florey example?
Florey was the person who took a big discovery and actually made a product from it. They produced penicillin from it. Penicillin, if it wasn't for the discovery by Fleming and a person like Florey that took it to the next level, that we had a product and saved lives, it would have been a very sparsely populated planet today.
How critical then is this link between fundamental research and applied research within the one research centre?
Research is a body contact sport with your stakeholders. You need to interact with a stakeholder's problem, or even a problem that you can just see in society. If you really indulge and put yourself in the shoes of people standing there in those situations where the problem is or the grand challenge is, and then step out and say, I'm now the researcher, how am I going to solve that? How am I going to add value here? That, I think, is the key to make the difference. The fundamental basis of research is that you need both. So as the research leader, it is important that you understand you need to have a black belt in your discipline in the first instance. Once you have your black belt, you are in a position to add the maximum value to the other bits that will lead to applications. If you're a master of your discipline, people in other disciplines will respect you for that. They may not understand as much as you do from your discipline, but they will respect the fact that you are a leader. And then if you have the open-mindedness that you can see that you should actually hunt in packs. If you combine these things, you will find the maximum opportunity to lead to an innovation in society or in industry.
You've referred to hunting in packs. Does this refer back to your South African background and what you've learnt from the animal kingdom?
I often learn lessons from my childhood in South Africa and just observing animal behavior in the bush or in the jungle. You would often find animals that hunt at night and they hunt alone, like a leopard. There is room for such people in a university as well. I'm sitting in my office and I'm writing a book or I'm writing a poem. They are very effective in what they're doing. But what you also find, which I think a university is more like, if you look at the ecology of a university, when it is really in balance, you will often drive through a bush. You'll see animals here and there, and then often you get into open spaces where you only see savanna. In those areas, you always find gazelles, zebra, giraffe grazing together. And they actually complement one another. Some of them eat tall grass, other short grass, and by doing that, they actually feed one another in an indirect way because they need the other one to cut the tall grass shorter so that they can graze. you rarely find only a herd of zebra or only a herd of buffalo. You always find them together. They're different species, they have different behaviors, they eat different things sometimes, but they're always together. And I think if we can mix our disciplines in universities more and have the open-mindedness where there are not walls around disciplines but membranes.
Do you see a key responsibility for research leaders to break down the barriers across disciplines?
I don't think you can really manage creativity or you can force academics to do things. What I do think a research leader can do is to take down barriers and allow opportunity for spontaneous mix and matching and encourage that. Sometimes you can do it by a carrot, but never with a stick. There is a responsibility on the scientist to understand that it's not only about the technical issues. We need to be able to explain that to people with a background in law, because we need good legislation and legal frameworks in which we do things. We need to talk to philosophers, the deep thinkers of where will this technology actually lead us, because that will tell us where the risks are. It will help us to understand entrepreneurial aspects of what we're doing. Are we going to create a synthetic yeast and somebody will say, so what? It cost you $20 million, but what are you going to do? But if we stimulated the entrepreneurial thinking in there, maybe we can come up with a new way to produce cheap vaccines to solve big problems by using that technology. If the entrepreneurship is embedded in our thinking when we attack these things. So not only driven by money, not only driven by the technology and the science and the hunger for discovery, but also driven by the fact that I want to add value and I want to have impact with my research, but in a positive way. That's why you need the humanities.
So we're making a strong scientific contribution, but we're also making a strong contribution to society and the well-being of society.
I can just emphasize again, somebody once said, where there's an open mind, there's a frontier. If the people from the different disciplines can keep that open-mindedness beyond the boundaries of their own disciplines and not deal with their own disciplines in such a selfish way that they lose contact with the real world. That brings us back to, is your research inspired by utility? Is it inspired by fundamental understanding? It's not either or. You need both. If it's inspired by both, and we hunt in packs across disciplines, that gives you the biggest opportunity to use your discipline, your creativity, and your knowledge of and your expertise in your discipline in a value-adding way by interacting with people outside of your disciplines.
Professor Sakkie Pretorius, thank you for talking to the Ethos Forum.
Thank you very much.
Howard Florey assembled a team of scientists when working in a team was not common. He realised that achieving his vision was a job too big for one person. He was a selfless man who showed generosity in research leadership, a generosity of spirit that nurtured intellectual inquiry and enabled those around him to excel. Enabling others to excel, a principle that surely lies at the heart of research leadership and at the heart of the Ethos Forum.